All right, well, here we are on the boat, and I am going to try to keep this galley project moving along here. So I don't have anybody lined up yet to come measure my countertops and get me some material built to finish off the countertops. But what I am working on is where I put this induction cooktop underneath there, where I took the old oven out. I've got this big space that I'm planning on putting those slide-in wine drawers in there. And I started building some doors for the cabinet there, and it did not go that well. So that's one of those projects that was outside of my basic comfort zone and or skill set. I'm not really that great of a carpenter. In school, I was pretty good in metal shop and not so good in wood shop. Remember shop classes? You young people don't maybe even have shop classes anymore. But anyway, I did good in metal shop, where you could, if you had something that didn't line up right, you could weld it and grind it and weld it and grind it and all that, and it worked good. Wood, not so much. So I struggled a bit. I'll show you that. And I'm on pass 2. I'll show you that, and we'll catch up and see if we can't get these galley doors finished up and get on to some other work on the boat here. All right, well, I bought one of these cheap miter boxes at Lowe's made of plastic because I didn't have anything on the boat that would cut a 45-degree angle. And man, this was just wasted money, I think. The thing is pretty much just junk. It flexes, and the little clamp that's supposed to hold the wood in place doesn't really hold the wood in place. It flexes, and then as you're actually cutting, you put your saw blade in the pre-cut slot for like a 45-degree angle, but as the saw blade itself is going back and forth, the sides of the teeth are kind of shaving off some of the plastic that's the guide on that slot. So I think the more you use it, the sloppier it gets. And even being careful and cutting these, I felt like as good inside that angle as I could. Once I got my pieces all cut and started to put them together, the inner part of the 45-degree angle was hit. That part of the wood was touching before the outer part of the corner, if that makes any sense. And so I felt like, I just wasn't at exactly 45 degrees of angle or whatever. I was having a real problem there. So I tried sanding down with my sander, just roughly to see if I could shave off some of the inside of that corner and get the outside to meet up. It was a struggle. The whole thing was a struggle, and I never really got it. And even though I had these 90-degree clamps for clamping the corners, I clamped the corners and still didn't really work. So don't waste your money on one of these things. I wish I hadn't, and there's my words of wisdom. All right, well, I'm not on the boat today. In fact, if we do the math, I think I'm like 850 miles away from the thing. I'm back here in Salt Lake. I'm in the house. And if it sounds a little echoey in this room, it's because I'm down in the basement. I've pulled up all the carpet. I'm on concrete flooring as part of this house remodel to get this thing ready to sell. However, that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that new wine cabinet area underneath the cooktop, where I've got room to put in those wine drawers. I think I talked about that in the last video or two. So anyway, let's talk about what we're going to do today, because I'm going to redo some of what I did when I was up there on the boat. So let's talk about that. Okay, so I don't remember how much I actually filmed of me trying to make some new cabinet doors to fit that space where the oven used to be. I don't think I filmed very much of it, but I tried to do it up there with the tools that I could carry onto the boat, which was basically a plastic hand miter box from Lowe's, a $20 version, and handsaw. And I've got some clamps that clamp the corners in 90-degree angles and so forth. But it worked okay, but not very good. I mean, I don't want to say not very good. It wasn't horrible, but it was a little bit out of square on the bottom. My 45-degree angles weren't really precise. And a casual glance at the thing, you probably wouldn't notice it, but being the guy who's going to be living there, I notice it, and it's going to drive me nuts. So I ran over to Home Depot here in Salt Lake, and I picked me up a couple of chunks of red oak. And these are like 1x4 by 6 foot. And that's enough to cut one door out of each side. I need like 20-inch sides and 10 across the top. And so I got plenty of room to work with here. I've got a chop saw here at the house that I'm using to do baseboard and door trim and all that kind of stuff. So I should be able to cut myself some really nice, precise 45-degree angles. I picked up some little dowels to drill into the corner and put some dowels in there. So let's see if round 2 of this goes a little better than round 1. And see if I'm going to be a little better off with an actual saw that's, fixed at 45-degree angles. So we're going to tear into that, see how it goes. Hopefully it goes a little better than what we did up there on the boat. All right, well, if you look really closely on the floor there, you can see my 4-inch woods laying there. I tried to cut some 45s and then drill some holes for some dowels to put in there. And I don't know, there must be some jig or something you're supposed to use to get your dowel precisely placed so that when you put your corner together, everything lines up well. I was not getting it, just hand drilling it. So I went back to the store one more time and I got me some 3-inch instead of the 4-inch, which I think was kind of what I was using originally, and just cut them and glued them without the dowels, and that seemed to go a little bit better. So 3 passes of materials here, and I finally kind of got it to where I had a working set of door frames, I think. All right, well, I cut my first set of boards here and I just put these in the clamp. And that looks pretty good. That's been better than I've been doing. So I'm gonna glue these, leave them clamped. I've got 2 sets of the clamps. So I'll do that same thing with these and let them dry. And then we'll see if the 2 halves fit together. So far so good. We'll see how it goes. All right, well, we're 25% of the way done. So I've got 1/2 of a door and I've got the other half of the door. These have been in the clamps now for a couple of hours. So we're gonna take them out and put them together and see how well we did on this pass of this door saga. So stand by. Let's just see how things look here. When I was in high school, I did not really do well in wood shop. I wound up doing well in metal shop because in metal shop you can weld a crack full and grind it down. Metal is metal and no one really knows. However, so far we did a little better this time around. So I'm putting these together. Our corners look pretty good. Cautiously optimistic that we might have this. So I'm going to glue these up and let them dry, and then we'll do the second door. So I think so far so good. All right, well, I am going to throw myself upon the mercy of all you woodworkers out there. What the hell am I doing wrong here? So, I got my doors in. I got a pretty big gap between the two, which I might be able to do something kind of like this. I got to figure out how to do this anyway in my holes here, obviously. And I was obviously off on my measurements by a little bit. I'll measure the other doors and see how far I was, but they kind of did trim around this door, so maybe I could get away with a little piece of trim down the middle here and it'll be all right. But why is this doing this? So I'm in here and out here, and I can't figure out what's going on there. It's I don't know. Maybe by the time it all gets stained, it'll be just fine, and it'll have wine in there, so we'll be drunk when we're opening those anyway, right? So we won't notice. So I'm just wondering if I can live with that or not. I probably can, just because, you know, I got other stuff I gotta finish up. But I won't throw the old doors away that I built the first go around. I don't know which is worse, my first set or my second set. My corners are tighter, at least, so my miters look better, but I don't know about the rest of it. As I've said, I'm not a carpenter, and props to you carpenters out there. I mean, you know, you got to respect guys that can work with this soft wood stuff and get it right every time. Or obviously it's like any other skill, you got to do a lot of it to figure out what you're doing wrong. But I can't really figure out what I'm doing wrong on the way that door's hanging there. I'm looking down the line of the hinges. The hinges seem to be sticking out the same amount on both sides. I don't know. Anyway, I don't also know how I'm going to do this lattice stuff, or whatever you want to, these slats here. So it looks like this is something that's built, you know, outside of the box and then stuck in there. I'll go to the lumber store and I'll see. I've seen this material like this, and I'll see if maybe I can get a few of those and cut them to length. At least the one thing about it is they'll all be the same length, but I don't really know how I'm going to do that. If you know how I'm supposed to do that, maybe before I do that, I'll have this video up and you can tell me. And of course I'll YouTube it, but what are you supposed to search for there? How to make slats in a door? Maybe that's what I'll Google. But anyway, diminishing returns on much more work on this, I think, at this point. I'm just going to have to call it and move on. All right, well, as the next step in the process here, what I've done is I went and bought some of this material. So it's about 3/4 of an inch. It's rounded on two sides here. And I've built myself a frame around the inside of each of the doors. They're in there right now, and they're glued to just the inside of the 45-degree angles. So just letting the glue dry, holding them in there. I tried to keep them moving around a little bit after I put the glue in, hoping that I wasn't actually gluing them in place, because I will probably want to take them out and stain them. But and then I've cut some little sections of this, and these pieces ultimately I think will be what will kind of go in here as my slats. But as with all this stuff, I'm struggling to get the slats cut exactly the right length. They fit in this one, they don't fit in this one, so each one of these is going to be a little custom, it appears. So anyway, I'm just continuing on with this, and I'm not really sure I know how I'm going to do this part yet, but let's see. I'm just not sure how to get the angle right and glue them in there. So I'll show you what I come up with, if I come up with any genius ideas, but right now I have none. All right, well, it's just me and the seals out here this morning so far. It's early in the morning, and if my face is looking a little blurry, it's because I'm kind of high on varnish fumes. So I got up early this morning and put the third coat of varnish on these cabinet doors. They cured out for a day and a half about the second coat, so I let it get a good long cure on it. I'll spin you around and give you a quick look at what we look like this morning. So here's our doors. I think they're gonna do okay. So about the last thing to do is just put the hinges back on, hang them back up down there, so I won't show you that. But just a quick note on my inserts for the wine bottles. I seem to be dealing with one of those companies that believes in over-promising and under-delivering, which is the antithesis of what I always felt like was important to do in business. My motto was under-promise and over-deliver. So if you think something's going to take you 2 weeks, tell people it's going to take 3 and do it in 2. Or if you think it's going to take a week, tell them it's going to take 10 days and do it in a week. It's always better than saying, yeah, we'll get that stuff out, and then not doing it. I probably won't go back and tell you exactly how long I've been waiting for these things, but it's been a while. And I had emailed that they did say it takes 3 to 5 weeks to get them built. Whatever. That's a pretty big range, in my opinion, for something as small as what we're doing here. We're doing some drawer inserts, but whatever. So nothing's been happening for a while. I told you a ways back, they called me. The guy called me and asked a couple of questions. This was the last time I was back in Salt Lake, right after I got back there. So I know that's been 3 to 5 weeks ago. And I got the impression, all right, we got the last information we need. We're going to get these built and get them on the way to you. So nothing happened. I reached out via email last week when I first got up here, and pretty sure it was last week, and said, hey, just can I get an update? And he got right back to me and said, oh yeah, we got a little busy, but we're going to get these out this week and we'll get you shipping information. They didn't do that. And now another week's gone by and no shipping information still. So, I don't know. I keep running into people that are doing business that way, and it drives me crazy because I just think it makes you want to tell people, well, don't do business with that guy because he doesn't do what he says he'll do. So I have no idea when I'm going to get the inserts, but I'll hang the doors back up there and we'll be on our way. All right, well, I no sooner got finished bitching about that guy that was building my wine cabinet inserts when I got a notification from the folks at the mail place up there that I had a package. Now, I walked all the way down there, assuming it was going to be my little gauge for my breaker panel because I've been getting notifications that that's out for delivery today as well. That's not there yet, and what I got instead was this package. So that is from my interior design folks. That's my wine drawers. Now, in my defense, I went back and looked at the day that I ordered these. I ordered them on March 3rd. Today is April 25th. So quite a ways. And I never did get tracking information from them. But that all said, I'm going to open them up and see how they fit. All right, well, I've got my drawers in here, and everything's fine except so these two drawers are fine. This one, not so fine. So this is what I specifically asked him about, is do I have room? And I do, however, because this drawer here could go down, and then this drawer could come down, except our spreader is in the way there. So I might have to modify this thing a little bit. So I'm going to drop this drawer down and take up some of this space and see where that leaves me up here, because this drawer is just too high where it is, but we got our cross piece here, which obviously we're supposed to be above. This is the bottom down here, has holes in it to screw down into the cabinet. So definitely got the bottom right. The bottom shelf is down as far as it can go. This shelf could go down at least 2 holes, I think, and still clear just fine. This one could then go down and clear, but we'll have to do something different about those spreaders. But maybe we'll just screw this to the sides and not use those top spreaders. All right, well, in the interest of calling this project completed and getting on to some other stuff here, I'm going to call this project completed. The moving the drawers down worked out pretty well. There's not much room between the shelf, the top of the bottles and the shelf above them, which is good because, you don't want things bouncing around down in there and breaking or getting crazy. So that's a good thing. I might want to look at some way to maybe lock the drawers in or lock these doors closed, but I'll think about that and then get back to it. The wood grain didn't match. The stain's a little darker than the stuff around it, but it's the best I can do with the woodcraft skills that I have. I've been talking to my countertop guys now. They're scheduled to come out next week on Wednesday and measure this thing, so we'll get countertops rolling and slap up some backsplash, and we might then be done with this galley. So that'll be good. But for now, we're done with this video. So I'll see you next time around when we start working on mechanical issues again.